Today I have with me Len Getz. Len is a former CPA for the IRS and is the Philadelphia associate with the Counter-Islamist Grid, a project of the Middle East Forum. Welcome to Sutliffian Report, Len. Your article on American Thinker, Charities Review Council stumbles regarding care, could be catching, should be catching the eye of every philanthropist in the United States. Let's start with the basics. Who are the Charities Review Council?
Well, it's always good to be on your show, Paul. Really appreciate being here and reaching out to all your listeners. It's really a pleasure and a privilege to be here. And I thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for inviting me. So the article, as you mentioned, was published in the American Thinker, and explains that the Charity Reviews Council, it's a nationwide organization that strives to match donors with nonprofit organizations that they deem meets its so-called accountability standards. It's been around since 1946, and it claims that it works to strengthen nonprofits' internal policies and accountability, and prides itself that every precious dollar goes to strong, ethical, and trustworthy nonprofits. They claim to educate the nonprofits about transparency, and how transparency is a crucial aspect of meeting its rigorous, so-called rigorous accountability standards. And they say that its strategic priorities include culturally responsible giving and being a model for integrity. So that's what they say they're about.
Wow.
Yeah.
I find it shocking that a Charities Review Council who makes recommendations to philanthropists, these are the people that have the extra cash to give away, um,
Right.
on where they're advising them on where the money should go. They
Right.
don't really do any background work from what I just read in your article. This is amazing. You talk about an executive director of Charities Review Council, Chris Kiewicz, right? Is that how you say
I
it?
believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Not having access to or information on the foundation of the Council on American Islamic Relations, aka CARE, or if you work in national security area or you have any wisdom in that area, they know them as Hamas in America. So how it just kind of blows my mind that they don't know,
Yeah.
but could you please tell us what happened this past November?
So they certainly have access to the information. They have just as much access as you or I. All you have to do is check into it, is look them up. But it's very clear that they didn't even bother doing so, or they don't care. My guess is they didn't bother doing so. I noticed on the Care Philadelphia website, there was an emblem that says, our organization meets the accountability standards of the Charities Review Council. And I didn't know anything about the Charities Review Council. So I went into their website and I saw indeed, who they were, what they're all about. And indeed, they list CARE Pennsylvania and CARE California as meeting their criteria. So I contacted Chris Kiewicz, she's the executive director, and I asked her if she knows anything about, how the Council of American Islamic Relations began, and she had no idea. She didn't know. She had no idea who they were, how they were formed, and she seemed to welcome information about them. So I sent her information. I also explained to her that it began with the FBI actually wiretapped a meeting of Hamas leaders in a Philadelphia hotel in 1993, where these people were talking about, Hamas people were talking about establishing, forming CARE. I sent her information about how they were identified as a co-conspirator in the federal case against the Holy Land Foundation that raised money for Hamas in the United States. I showed her that the United Arab Emirates country, it's a Muslim country, but they designate CARE as a terrorist organization. I presented her with information about the state of Arkansas, and that they passed a House resolution suspending outreach to CARE because their officials have been imprisoned on terrorist charges. I told her about the Commerce Department's Census Bureau that severed its partnership with CARE because of its ties to terrorism. I told her that at some point CARE lost its tax-exempt status because it failed to meet the standards of a tax-exempt organization. It failed to file its reports. You know, it's formed. You know, it's 990s, and they were and during this time they actually were receiving money from foreign organizations. So and also they specifically, as I mentioned, Charter Review Councils, they specifically mention CARE California and CARE Philadelphia. So I sent her information about how the Anti-Defamation League had exposed the executive director of Los Angeles CARE about his history of anti-Semitism, calling Israel a cancerous tumor, implying that the Holocaust is morally equivalent to supporting Zionism as ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, which is an absurd notion. The fact of the matter is, the population of Palestinian Arabs have increased since Israel was established.
And this would make them a racist organization.
Well, this would make. I'll actually get into more racism in a minute. I also tell them about Jacob Bender. Jacob Bender is the executive director of Philadelphia CARE. And I sent her an article where he says, and I don't know where he comes up with these ideas. He must, I don't know, maybe he goes to bed at night and thinking about ways how he can be more anti-Semitic than the day before. He writes an article where he says, Jewish Americans will argue that slavery is dwarfed by the Holocaust. And he accused Jews of counting the corpses competition. I don't know where he comes up with these ideas. It's absurd. But you know, they're actually in line with CARE's anti-Semitism in general. I told Chris that they lobbied against the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2019, something that was adopted by the U.S. Department of Education. They also opposed the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism, something that's been adapted by the U.S. State Department, and also, by the way, has recently been embraced by the Biden administration. I also told her about there's an instance, if you remember this, Paul, a couple of years ago, there's a mosque in Philadelphia, the Muslim American Society Mosque, that uploaded a video of children singing about chopping off the heads of Jews, and we will liberate the Alaska Mosque. And Jacob Bender had commented about this. He said, "No, this is not so bad. This is not radicalism." And then there's another mosque in Philadelphia called the Alaska Islamic Society. They had an imam there who delivered 3 anti-Semitic speeches at that mosque. And what does Jacob Bender do? He rewards the leadership by inviting them to their upcoming banquet. So Ms. Chris Kiewicz, she seemed grateful for all the information that I gave her. It's a lot of information. She said, "You can give me more information that would help me, to help the board form a decision about what to do." She said, "Give me a couple of months, and I'll present all this information to the board in January, so they can make their decision." But as I mentioned, I never heard back from them, and despite my efforts to contact them with several messages on her voicemail and sent her more emails, she never contacted me. And CARE Philadelphia, CARE Pennsylvania, and CARE California is on their website as a recommended charitable organizations that donors should donate to.